I think we will see it being incorporated in the weeks to come.
Well, this is... Yeah, go ahead.
No, you carry on.
Well, I was going to say, the things that will not surprise you about NIP is pretty much the 3 people on tanks you will see all day, every day, regardless, when they do leave spawn. But I always feel pretty comfortable saying that Himsy will be running that Roadhog, Fraggy will be on Reinhardt, and Mafu will play Zarya. That much has not changed. So Zube is going to round that out on the offense very likely as well on the Ana. They don't really mess around in spawns. Kinnel will be playing their supports on Lucio, of course. Zappas, for the moment, is on Sombra. I do not know if we'll see that, but what do you see on the defense? They're looking pretty hit scan heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see here we're going to have see Whoosh and Logic's going to go for hit scan straight away. So that Soldier 76 is making the appearance that we kind of expected him to, having seen what we've already seen over at Apex today. But the McCree for Logic's is interesting. I always feel like the gunslinger is a bit more endangered species these days, but a bit early to tell. Also, Brooks on the Mercy here, obviously, when she has a little bit quicker health regeneration after taking damage. Now, it enables her to fly back and forth a bit better. But, yeah, the McCree, interesting to me. It's nice to see Zenyatta back in. So, complete departure, Hex, at least for now, away from the Lucio Ana comp.
Yeah, well, you nearly have to run a Zenyatta against NIP, I would think, just because the Discord is so valuable on those tanks. Burks, of course, very comfortable on the Mercy. I believe he was on a team called Eccentric. First 2 weeks of closed beta. And
yeah, with like Skipjack and Nebix.
Yeah, way back then. They were one of the first Overwatch games. So we do have them rolling out here. They both get on high ground. Hanzo's just kind of looking to pepper away. This pick comp is in full effect. They land the hook on Divinus. He is down.
Yeah, not a good start there, and that's the picks that you need here. You can see Himsy as well going to be pressing his way forward. The Roadhog and the Hanzo combination always so deadly in these situations, and Brooks falls already. So those supports going to drop away so early on for Mousesports, and it's so hard to climb back from this kind of position, Hex. They're going to be shunted right out. I mean, at least an honourable mention for Logic's there to get a couple kills on the backside, but it's not going to be enough, not remotely.
Yeah, Logic did get a couple there, so at least they're not going to be completely rolled over getting 6-0'd. So he picked up 2 picks pretty late, and even with this slower ult charges, he already has his Deadeye up, so that's how much work Logic's did. But the hook early on Divinus, he got taken out immediately, then they just went for Burrick. So not only is the pick composition working, but the high priority targets were the first picks there. Already a little bit of a bad sign for Mousesports. They're going to have to find someone who can protect their supports a little bit stronger.
Yeah, and Himsy's going to be a key player here. That hook, we know in his hands is deadlier than any others, and even the right click, in fact, is probably even more what Himsy's famed for and be able to get a lot of damage done. So Mousesports have the drop down. They do now go first. It's just a seal to drop down to start with. Now the Icelandic player actually going to get on towards Fraggy to start things off. We do have a nano boost in effect here, and that was Mafu heading up on high, but hasn't got much done with it so far. The Orb of Discord definitely going to sting, and he gets taken down by C-Whoosh here. It's going to have to be at this stage, and IP backing off. Decent engagement from Mousesports, even though it looked a little bit disjointed on the drop down from the high ground.
They might have a little bit of difficulties with this Winston because they are running against the Zenyatta. Winston is going to be their initiator to try to take over this high ground. They don't have a whole bunch of other options to be able to deal with it. So Mafu switched off of that Zarya, even though they've got the Hanzo trying to get that amazing combo going. Maybe that's because the ult charge is so slow and Zarya's always been slow on it, but now they're just going to take the low ground and force the defense down.
Dragon Strike.
There it is.
Well, Zappas, yeah, going to go with the Dragon Strike here. The thing is, most of the Mousesports are on the high ground there, so maybe he was trying to just deny the low from them. Burrick's going to try and escape here from Zappas, but there's really no escape. He does get the res off at the very least here, but this is just being Mousesports being cut down in swaths. A couple players up on the payload for them. Divinus is just going to be completely shredded through there. It's one little Zenyatta against the world. The hook from Himsy won't quite connect here, but you can see Logix has been forced right back, and this payload, Hex, hasn't showed any signs of slowing down this whole round.
I think they decided that they don't need to worry about the high ground, that they were going to force a fight onto them. They have enough health pools that they can take the chip damage that is coming from the high ground. That's exactly what they did to force the fight. And honestly, the Resurrection has been in a rough spot since very early parts of Overwatch, and now teams have just responded so much better to these giant reses. But look, Mousesports fighting back as Logic and Divinus get in here too. Logic's taken out, but C-Switch is still alive as the hit scan will pepper them down, and they somehow bring that fight back 2 meters away from the checkpoint.
Yeah, very, very close there. And this is actually not a terrible situation for NIP because they get the payload across the line in this next fight cleanly enough. Then they can make a lot of progress into the throne room and not be sort of funneled out and choked through the very small openings. So it's not terrible here for the Finnish squad. but we're going to see they're going to work through the inside now. All of them going together. Zappos now going over to Soldier 76 here, and out there is going to be Frankie knocked down. Earthshatter comes in. It's going to be a nano boosted Reinhardt there as well. Oh, a seal goes off the edge. That's not what you want to happen there. And a beautiful look from him to catch on towards Swoosh, takes him down, and that payload's going to hit the mark. And this is the scary part, Hex. They can keep going quite a long way. A clean wipe now. The odds of them getting pushed out the front door are getting slimmer and slimmer.
Well, Fraggy just fire strike sniped out Burrix there too. He was just standing in the wrong spot. That was a question that we had even off stream, is how effective is this NIP composition going to be after the speed boost is off of the ultimate? It used to be Fraggy just running wild, getting the boost and chunking through people with his axe, but we're going to see if it's going to be still as effective here. Already, the alt changes is coming greatly into play. Fraggy does finally have his Earthshatter up and the ready. Swoosh does use his tactical visor very early on there, gets knocked down, so this fight continues rather bloodless so far.
Yeah, no follow-up on the Earthshatter so far. It's going to be a bit of a slow grind of a fight here. His up is sitting in the background, but Asil gets 2 kills. Mafu and Fraggy kind of going in one at a time here, and this will be enough of an opening, at least for Mousesports, to push NIP back for the moment here. Even though Zappos was attempting to try and get in from the side here, they're going to have to regroup and go for the old El Clasico push through one of the 2 doors.
It's a tough place to push through as well. Once this door closes, this is the bane of many of competition teams here. They do not like trying to push through here. At least they're not having to go against a Mei, so they do actually give them pretty free entrance here, as Zappos will rotate around. He's very nearly got his tactical visor up. They're going to boost into the Winston anyways. He tries to get all that damage on, but the Transcend keeping most of everyone pretty alive and healthy.
The tactical visor coming out, but that's going to be a nudge to catch out Divinus, and it will be a forced res here. But Asil, Finzi, Swoosh all giving ground as Mappy dives into their midst. He will at least get some damage done, but again, Swoosh takes him down. This is still Mousesports playing a fighting retreat, though, and Himsy always going to hit the hook. Gets that one beautifully on towards Divinus. Swoosh is going to be forced right back here, and this should be the payload getting over the line here. Himsy, whole hog coming out now, Graviton being thrown in, but Himsy's able to push back quite comfortably here. It's only Logix can actually get on the payload. He's going to attempt to go for a Death Blossom, but he gets cut nastily short.
A desperation time here coming out, but they're pushing into ultimates. They push into Sound Barrier, they push into Earthshatter. A desperation Earthshatter on the defense back as Swoosh continues to stay alive and get some damage done. He's finally taken out by Fraggy. Fraggy continues to swing that hammer, taking down Finzi at the end. He is the last line of defense. Logic's now out here on the Tracer, but it's only going to delay so much. They complete Eichenwalde with 2 minutes and 10 seconds in their time bank.
And smoothly done there as well. That's a good amount of time to have. And so those listening at home, I'm
super surprising there, but it's actually interesting just as a caster not to get. The ultimates are not up as often as they were. They're much more impactful.
So to those at home wondering, yes, my mic is having a couple issues right now, so I'll try and get them sorted in between. I don't think the gain's too high, it's just a crap mic, so I'll try and get it fixed here. I know it's annoying, but in the meantime there as well, 2 minutes 10 on the time bank, Hex, nothing to sniff at here, and I wouldn't be surprised if NIP put up a stone wall right at this first choke point.
It's very possible, and regardless of your mic, Uber, you sound beautiful. We're all just happy you're here. So it's going to be interesting what they're going to run on their defense. I mean, well, actually, not really. Not when it's NIP. They generally will run, like I said, those 3 that you don't even have to call the rest of the day. It's Fraggy, Mafu, and Himsy will play the tanks. They are going to run this Mei in here too, but with Pharah being, a little bit of a boost here, they're going to be running against that. So that should give them a little bit of entrance over the wall at the very least. So. Still, I would tend to agree that the first point defense is going to be very impactful and very interesting to see how the rest of the map goes. And then even if they ended up losing first point, having Mei for last point is absolutely brutal. You do expect NIP to end up putting up a stronger defense here, but I'm really interested to see kind of just if we're going to see Soldier 76 all throughout the day. I know we talked pre-show. You said that he's firmly back in the meta, you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's been used in every single round by the Korean sides anyway, what we've seen him playing. So I think he's just consistent enough now to be considered a safer and higher damage dealer at that kind of range than McCree. So it's not even like the wheel has been reinvented here. He's just a bit of a more solid pick right now. But we're out of the gates. Let's see what Mousesports can do here.
Well, we're also not necessarily in the meta where you have to prioritize burst damage because you don't want to feed ults, of course, but that seemed like it was a little bit more important prior when ults were charging super fast. So they are just going to poke back and forth at each other. I do think they have an inkling that this Mei is alive. They do cut in 3 in half, but they're able to come up over the top. That is a 4v6 forced by that Mei wall. and they are cleaning up as Fraggy takes down both tanks. That should spell a full retreat for Mousesports.
Yeah, not an ideal start there, and Swoosh wasn't able to really make much of an impact there. He tried to go up towards the overpass, get in towards the side and get some damage down, but he's confronted by 2 tanks, and then Fraggy, of course, just making matters even worse here. So it's all well and good to have a damage boosted Pharaoh over the top, but you need to complete these kills here, otherwise you're going to get slow rolled out. Wall comes up, that's nasty. Seal's going to put up right up against that one. Swoosh again, trying to get some damage down over the top, but that's Logix. He tries to go forward, he's shielded up, but he's hooked in immediately and picked up, and Mafu gets the credit.
Logix was trying to run that tracer route to the right side to get around in the high ground and get in, maybe open that front door, but simply running, his sprint is not as quick as Tracer. They caught him out immediately. That's another 2 quick kills. They might need to figure out a different way to come in. As you mentioned, they're still not getting the picks that they need on Pharah, and we are kind of in a pick meta, at least very briefly right now, and so not getting any kills, getting walled off here. You'd think that the Pharah would be good against this Mei wall, but it's not unless you're murdering people.
No, it needs more than just the Pharaoh, I think, is the issue. Now, Fraggy, he's a man to watch. He's got the Earth Shadow ready to roll, and this could be very, very nasty. There is a nano boost waiting in the wings for Zappy. Yes, Fraggy might not have a speed boost, but hey, if they're all on their rear ends, he can just walk over to them and clobber them to give it a few moments, and that will just be the panic button, really, if needed. Mafu does get picked up by a Cylinder. That was actually a fire strike, and the wall comes up. Fraggy does give himself a nano boost now, going in towards the building, I guess, up on top here. Logix is taken down by Himsy. Swoosh and Brewix is still over the top here. That's all well and good, but eventually there's going to have to be an answer. Great Earth Shadow for a seal, though. He deals with Fraggy. Swoosh gets the damage, and that's a big barrage coming in over the top. 3 easy kills, and finally it looks like Mousesports may have found the solution. Zappis, he actually had a Blizzard available, but he's taken down by Brewix of all people before he can get onto the point and do anything about it.
We are seeing just so much more of the alt impact that they have. They did have to use everything to break through there, but I think that's why they were biding their time a little bit to get those charges up, because a Graviton into Barrage, a combo as old as time in Overwatch comes through, and really none of the support ultimates they're able to stall them out. As you mentioned, Zappis did have it late. Swoosh taking on Mafu is really nice for them. They can continue this fight, but now they do equalize it as Finzi goes down there. Blizzard is going to come down on the cart, and we'll just call that a zoning alt. A nice hook though takes down Swoosh, and it's going to force the res on Burks, gives his life up for it, and now it is just turning into a scrappy affair down on the ground.
Yeah, very messy. I mean, that's a missed hook there from Himsy, and Zappis is being forced to give up ground here, so this is going to allow the payload to make some progress. Zappis going on his own here, and Garen relying on the shielding from Mafu. So far, not so bad. He puts the wall up, so he at least gets a bit of a 1v1 with, I guess, with Divinis there, or with Finzi, should I say. But he's managed to be forced away, and this will be, for a moment, NIP just establishing some control. Fraggy, with the shield, going forward, getting plenty of damage done here, and I think Mousesports are probably going to have to regroup.
Himsy is such a monster on his Roadhog, always has been, even back to the SG1 days is when this team started running the Roadhog months and months ago. He simply doesn't miss hooks that he has to hit. He throws it out pretty much every 6 seconds, even if he doesn't necessarily have a target. The blind fire from Himsy always connects to CMC. It works magic on that day. He Graviton. Here comes the swinging through on the Ana. Fraggy does not need a speed boost when everyone's just held right there, and they completely clean up this Mouse team.
And they completely bursted through the sound barrier, which is even more scary here. Divinis just had that ultimate up. He used it to try and save some of his teammates, but it was to absolutely no avail there. So that's a pretty high value transaction in terms of ultimates, especially with now them being a little bit more fewer and far between for NIP. So you're happy. You've got a whole hog, you've got a Blizzard again. Wall comes up, Graviton comes in, but there's no one there to follow up on it because the wall is going to block all the Mousesports away. No damage to be done. It was an attempt there for Swoosh to go in with the barrage, but he's cut nastily short, and Himsy just going to get the whole hog away, and this might just be the story of the rest of this round here. Mousesports are really struggling to actually make inroads, and yes, they're pouring through a choke, to be fair. That Mei wall is so nasty, Hex, when they're all clumped together behind the drawbridge.
Miscommunication and perhaps a lack of situational awareness by Finzi there, because he got cut off from his team, and at that point in time you just have to accept it and die. He threw down the Graviton hoping to maybe get the combo over the top, but it simply wasn't there as they came the Pharaoh over the top a little bit too late, and that's a waste of a combo that essentially got them the first point. I think that's what they were banking up for, hoping that would break through, but miscommunication and a misplay there really cost them the best option they have to break through this defense.
Yeah, Fraggy was a little bit overextended, though he eventually does fall. Burix now going over towards the Zenyatta, so that Discord Orb is going to be hitting true. Now Himsy having to disengage, but Zappis seems to have different ideas. He's going to come forward with Kynal there, and he gets the freeze on a seal, but he falls down there. And it feels as if after seeing Fraggy fall, NIP felt as if they were forced to engage there, and they got pretty well stopped.
Yeah, well, Himsy is going to rotate around on his Roadhog. He is up top right now, but they see him, and they know that they do not want to get picked off by an errant Roadhog hook, so they will rotate around to the high ground here. Very different approach we're seeing from this offense as they prioritize taking high ground. Defense is going to be able to posture up here now, and we'll see when the next fight engages. Fraggy's going to go down. He gets the boost yet again.
Yeah, Himsy going to go into the back there as well. He's looking for Logic. He does miss the hook, but Fraggy getting knocked way back there by God knows what. Most of his nano boost is expired, and now he's just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. Going to slugfest with a hammer coming through. Logic's caught in the Graviton. Himsy up above, but now it's going to be Burix and Swoosh well and truly caught out. Swoosh making the switch over towards Reaper here to work a little bit more with the high ground drop downs, but it's very little for that fight, and it's mostly Burix getting these kills, but they're just exits, Hex. 24 seconds on the clock here. It's last chance saloon in this map for Mousesports.
Well, let's take a look at what they have in their arsenal. They do have Transcend, and they do have Death Blossom here. That's something that you could even maybe combo together. Not the most traditional of combos, but you work with what you got. Finzi is a little bit too far away, in my opinion, to be able to get there, and they're not going to have time, the luxury to wait for this. They have to push now, and they're going to get collapsed on immediately by Fraggy. Here he comes down, swinging the hammer. They was like, hook in, takes the Reinhardt completely out of it. Transcend tries to catch up, but it's way too late. Swoosh does take down Zapdos. There's some trades, but this Earth Shatter should end the fight.
I mean, the heal comes in, but it's just too little too late. That's going to be Burix inevitably hooked in and taken to his maker. That's going to be the first map, and a convincing victory there to NIP to start things off here. And like people were speculating, Hex, like people were wondering, we pretty much see a team composition coming out from NIP that looks, well, untouched as of this new patch. They managed to make it work really well. And let's be honest here, the only time that Mousesports managed to make big progress was when they had the Graviton Surge and the Barrage. Everything they needed. Unfortunately, they couldn't make any inroads with 1, 2, or 3 ultimates, and you're not going to win a game if you can't make them work for you.
No, not at all. There were some individual plays that stood out, but they just didn't seem like they were ever working well as a team. Burix got a couple kills on his supports, and then Logix would have a moment, and Switch had a moment, but I believe that the Graviton getting thrown away was really probably when that match ended. You have to have better awareness there that when you're cut off from the rest of your team, which you know they're running a Mei, it's not a surprise that that wall was coming in behind. You get cut off like that, you have to know that you just have to die at some points. And it never feels good as a player that your best option is to do nothing. That never feels great. But Finzi really needed to hold that grab. It was just too ambitious to think that they were going to come over the top and be able to get the barrage in, and they absolutely needed it. Slasher, what did you see during that map?
I mean, there's a few things here. One, NIP was never really one.
Jesus. Yeah, that was awful. Slasher has a great microphone. At some point, we'll hear that again. But we are going to move over to Hollywood as Mouse Esports will choose that. NIP will be choosing which side they want to go on. And as Slasher mentioned, while he is fixing his technical issues, this is another map that Roadhog can be very good on. Blind hooks through the doorway, even on entry on defense, something like that. So I would imagine we're going to see a little more of that. Do you think perhaps we might see some Sombra here, Uber?
I mean, okay, so if you think of Sombra and their ability to flank and sort of be able to hack people when they've got their backs turned, okay, an attacking Sombra could make some inroads, you know, working on towards that first point at A, but honestly, I really don't think so. And not if you're NIP. I mean, this is a map where, you know, your pick comps where your Hanzo for Zappers can come in like he did in Eichenwalde, and of course, Himsy's Roadhog. I don't really see why you need to even bother going for that, to be honest.
So yeah, it's working now?
Yeah, it's a little better. Let's see.
A little better?
Yeah. It's not breaking my ears just yet.
Okay. NIP was never really a team.
I feel bad for having to silence Slasher here, but I mean, yeah,
he's got a wonderful microphone, and there's always just some little crackling with it. He's you know, some sort of witchcraft going on at Slasher's house, to the surprise of no one. So we'll see if when we first see Sombra today, but I tend to agree with you that she's not the strongest against this NIP composition. Your hacking targets, I suppose, could be Himsy so that he can't take a breather, but when you've got Zupe, who's just in his pocket a lot of the time anyway, looking to charge that at all, it's not going to change a whole lot there. I think maybe we'll see Sombra first appearing today when someone has a dominance, perhaps Zenyatta. He is a prime hack target. You just hack his shields off and then just buy Zenyatta. So it may be a little bit today before we end up seeing the Sombra, though Zappos will tease us as he's queued up there. That is not necessarily going to be what they're rolling out on offense. Do you see anything interesting out of the ordinary, Uber, on the defense over there?
Not overly. I mean, it's going to be a pretty similar comp here. The only difference for Mousesports, I guess, as opposed to what we saw last time, is that they're going to come out with a Reaper straight away, which for me just is entirely normal. And in fact, it's not only expected, but yeah, it has to happen, I think, on this point. Defensive Pharah, I mean, we don't even need to go into that discussion. It's just not going to be a thing. But I mean, the Soldier 76, we've seen him do a lot of work on this map. We'll see if Logix opts to go for the cafe or play a little bit more forward. It may really just depend on where they want to go with that one here. But Zappa's still on that Sombra. I would expect to see him go for a Hanzo here. No funny business. But hey, maybe something a bit fun. Now they've got the measure of Mousesports. Maybe they can start to throw something a bit more interesting into the mix.
You would imagine that the Soldier 76 at some point on Hollywood Defense will be on this cafe. There was a time in the game where he had to pay rent up there. That's exactly where he was the entire time. Burix is going to be boosting him too, so that does seem like the crux of the defense being set up on the cafe, boosting the Soldier 76 and trying to get it down. But the comp pick does, or the pick rather, comes out for NIP as they're running Hanzo and Roadhog trying to get these early frags in, and they're already taking some pretty nice positioning here. That shield is already very low. The hook comes in on his seal, already burns down the allied shield from Zarya, so a lot of resources and minor engagement stuff is already down and burned. Another hook comes in and misses right now, so now they will just kind of go back and forth. Swosh is trying to come over the top, very dangerous.
Yeah, and we can see Himsy as well is just trying to open something up with a hook here. I mean, Zappas has been plugging away with the bow this entire time. But again, we'll see a bit of a push around the corner here. Himsy's looking up top side, hopefully for a 76 or something earlier on, but no, we're not going to find it there at all. So Himsy will work through. Look at that, the right click, I'm telling you, gets the head of Himsy and then finds Divinus as well with the help of Fraggy, of course. And now the tank squad is going to roll their way through. And, you know, there's such a sense of inexorability about this kind of comp from NIP. It's just a matter of time before they find one hero caught out of position, and they did that quite comfortably.
Well, so far we have not seen Fraggy slowing down, even though he technically is slower from that Ana boost. The Ana's still getting charged rather quickly, and they're going to use that to snowball into a Fraggy Earthshatter, which is going to be next up as well. So yeah, they continue to kill. Himsy's right clicks, you're absolutely right. It's one of the abilities that can, if placed perfectly and get a little bit lucky, you can one-shot a Zarya with it. That's how much damage those are going to be able to do. So Himsy goes around the flank looking for a pick on a hook. Swoosh is going to try to deter him as he's going to run in, but he finds himself a little bit caught out as he's going to have to retreat to his team. Now the giant charge comes in. Here comes the dragon as well, because I think they want to switch off of that hero at some point, but already 2 kills. This is already going very poorly for Mouse.
Yeah, and Logix has to pop the ult now as well. Attack-wise is going to come out here because these Zappos is making himself very scarce. He eventually will have to fall here and kind of also going to drop down, but Logix on his own hook comes in and that's straight to the grave there. Himsy's going to find him very comfortably. And again, now it's just this case of Mousesports being in disarray. Divinus will try and buy a little bit of time, but he knows his boost is cooked, and again, his payload hardly halted at all. That's what I find kind of interesting here about Mousesports, is that they want to play the Mercies in Yaddle with the Soldier 76, but maybe don't respect the ability if you throw a nano boost in with a Soldier 76 while he's ulting, you have that deadly team wipe combo. But they got picked apart. Ultimates were used at interesting times, maybe not all that well put together. They're going to have a push out now. They've got a hold here.
They got the grab. They did catch 2 in it in the back line, but a nice charge is going to take down a seal, but Swoosh does come in, takes down 3 with his Death Blossom while he's in there. They do counter grab. This should be the first decent hold, the first really good fight that went in favor of Mouse. That is a full wipe there. They did have to expend all of their ultimates there, and again, we're going to be bringing this up throughout the day. Ultimate charges are now much slower, so at a much higher premium as when you use them, and if they're used correctly. Right there, Mouse had a really nice combo. They Graviton and got the Death Blossom in, got the 3 kills they needed. If you see ults that don't get anything out of it, that is a much bigger deal nowadays. Speaking of ultimates, Fraggy and Himsy are about ready to go as well. They have to be careful of these taking too much damage on the way in, but they're already just posturing up on the cart. Himsy looking for those early hooks.
And that was so perfect. Zappas harassed Swoosh so much that he had to drop off the high ground there. He's in a great position to start things up as Reaper, but it's not meant to be. Fraggy, that Earthshatter, is holding on to it since the last fight. Finzy put up against the wall. In the meantime, a seal also going to fall to Zappas. He lets loose and he lets go there. Not even a use of a tactical visor, really just laying the damage down. Logix, a brave attempt to jump and try and stop that fight, but again, another just whitewash. I think it was like a 6-for-4 fight in favor of NIP there as well. Those tanks hard to burst through, and especially hard here for Mousesports when they don't get the option to try and go for the squishy targets. Look at this again. They're being bullied. They actually got spawned far too close to the door now as they died just before the point was taken. So they're going to pretty much lose another whole fight and let this payload move even further before they can actually set up. This is a nightmare situation.
the spawn gods in Overwatch can be cruel, and that's what cost them a couple of kills there. And those free kills become even that much more important, as that's just free ult charge for the attacking team. NIP now pretty much loaded up here. They're going to have nearly 4 ultimates for this push, which could end up being their final push, pushing into mostly a blank team, but about to get there on a Graviton, about to get there on Transcendence. We'll see if Zappos is just going to kind of go in unfettered, but here they are going to charge Fraggy as he goes in. The Graviton comes in really far in the back line. There's no follow to it, but it does keep Burks away from the team as he's transcending. The counter grab comes in. Is there any follow-up to us? No, they are wraith walking away, so that is a Graviton that got nothing. Swoosh just a little bit too late on it, and that is the second time today for Mouse we've seen just a poorly coordinated combination of ultimates.
Oh yeah, I mean, more than second, I think, perhaps, but it's a problem. They're not being allowed to set up. They're not being given any time. It's so frustrating and oppressive to play in this situation. Seal goes for the Earthshatter. Guess what? Absolutely no one caught by that one, but he himself is going to get dumpstered, put straight down on the ground with an Earthshatter from Frag. And now Logic, he eats a Fire Strike. He goes down in mid-air. Swoosh can't even step on towards the payload here. He gets a shield. That's enough confidence to go forward, but it's going to be ripped from his grasp very quickly as he is taken down. And Finzi, the last hope here as well. It's not going to be enough. He will drop, and it's just, again, going to be another tough roll here for Mousesports. 2 minutes and 48 seconds at the time bank here for NIP. And if there was at any point where Mousesports actually held them on this map for any decent amount of time, I sure as hell didn't see it, Hex.
They want to fight towards the end of second. That was probably their bright spot on the map. It was yet again a Graviton that didn't have the follow-up to it, and it just looked like miscommunication because they Gravitoned and grabbed 4 into it, which is a solid grab. That's exactly what you want out of it. 4 is almost the ideal number for a Graviton. But Swoosh was in Wraith form. Wraith form you can't cancel. He can't do anything about it. They had the Death Blossom up. That's exactly the combination they were trying to hitting, and it's much like the Graviton into Barrage that they failed on the first map of Eichenwalde. They simply were 2 seconds away, and 2 seconds will cost you maps and cost you games in Overwatch. It just feels like they're a little bit out of sorts. The coordination simply isn't there right now for Mouse. And when you're using these ultimates, and as we say, premium on ultimates now, you can't have ultimates that get nothing done.
That's I really like how you bring out things like Wraith form and how it is an invulnerability frame, but you also can't actually do a lot with it. That's kind of the price you pay, right? If you're Genji and you're reflecting, if you're a main, you're an Ice Block, and if you're a Reaper in the Wraith Walk form, yeah, you're not going to die, but you also can't interact, and sometimes the duration of that invulnerability frame is not something you can control. You just have to deal with it, with exceptions, of course, May being one of those here, but you have to be very prudent on when you sort of use those here. But we could go on about this for ages. But I mean, let's talk about NIP the way they're setting up here. They're going to have the May, speaking of which. So Zappa's going to be on that pick here. But again, we're going to have the standard comp. They don't need to do anything crazy here. And maybe they have practiced some new stuff with the patch, Hex. But honestly, right now, the tried and true NIP strat is working an absolute charm for them.
We spoke briefly pre-game that with the NIP is going to be a team that is very lightly affected by this patch. I mean, if I didn't know the patch came through, I'd be like, yeah, it's just NIP. It's just what they run. So they have everything going for them as far as the patch and the meta shifting, at least to their liking at the very least. So they're going to go for an early pick. They do get a hook on Kinsey, but that is not going to be enough for the follow-up. Does burn a couple of those allied shields, so those will be down, at least momentarily, though. They do wall them off, though, and a giant charge comes in. Burrick somehow goes down in the backline to Hemsey as probably a right click through. Turning in very scrappy right now as they are trying to go back and forth. As Seal, with an ill-advised charge, is going to spell the end of this push for Mouse. They're going to have to completely regroup.
Yeah, it was a very interesting approach there from Finzi. He came straight forward. Okay, I knew he wanted to build up some charge for his particle cannon, right? But he literally threw himself into a hook there from Himsey. He actually allowed himself to be hooked in, then popped the shield and stayed alive. But by that time, it was a complete mess, and he'd allowed so much ground to be gained here by NIP coming forward for the fight. You see Logix, he was looking there for that hook on towards Zappos, but he missed it, and a Seal's going to get frozen. He was so far forward, it's almost as if he expected Logix to stay with him there and fight as the front line. Logix gets a hook in, but nothing to come of it because Fraggy's been shielded, defended, and healed the whole way. And this will be Mousesports bundled out of the main area yet again.
The silver lining is they were all in rough position and they managed to get 5 out there. So they were very aggressive. Missing that hook early on cost them, and they did end up trading out a Seal who's been charging several times, been very aggressive and punished. But they were able to get 5 out there. Most get in here on this, but Fraggy's going to get boosted. But that speed is not quite there. He's running up the stairs. You don't want to fight on stairs as Fraggy and Mafu combine for a couple swooshes in the backline. Does get a kill on Fraggy eventually. It looks like they have no choice but to stay in here. Swoosh gets hooked off of that high ground. This is all over on this fight. Logics will get cleaned up, feeding Himsy a little bit more ultimate as well. I think they might be waiting for this giant combo, is this Mousesports team. They have most of their ultimates up. Graviton and a Dragon could be a thing.
I mean, you just saw there a classic situation, a Seal getting hooked and taken down there. I mean, NIP, we're not going to allow him to get away with that one there. He needs to stay with his team, and he was a little bit too far ahead of the rest of Mousesports. So, one thing Baruch says about Mousesports is that when they run out of momentum, they have real trouble building it up here. So this is a big challenge for them to make something happen here as well. But Muffy's going to come through with a flank here. Graviton comes in, and this is nasty. The damage is real. There's even to follow it up here. It's more like icing on the cake if you like the Winter Wonderland. I don't even know if it's necessary at this point, but it will be a very comfortable wipe here. Well, actually, not that comfortable. They lost 3 players there. So for NIP, if I have to correct myself, maybe a little bit more costly than it otherwise should have been for the Finns.
They did have to use more ultimates. I'm not certain that I'm in love with that Blizzard there. They had everyone was mostly dead by the time that forecast came rolling in. Really nice positioning over the top, though, from Zupe as he was able to drop the fire grenade on there. They are going to wall off half of this team as Earth Shatters are exchanged. Logic taking a nap on the point, even though he's got the ultimate. He is so low right now. He gets taken off right. He's going to get counter-ulted and pushed through this. This should be an NIP hold.
Yeah, you can see Swoosh up on top now as Hanzo able to put some shots down. Now, that's all well and good, but you want to be able to be in a position to do that while your front line is alive, so you don't have a massive target painter on your back. I haven't really seen any jockeying back and forth here by Mousesports, putting that big meat shield wall in front of Swoosh and allow him to get a pick. NIP, it was Zappas just comfortably plinking away for ages. He eventually got a pick and it was going from there. So I'd like to see Mousesports actually protect Swoosh a little bit more and allow that pick to come instead of trying to force into the face here of NIP.
The wall comes in, but a little bit too late. Both Reinhardts are going to meet in the middle there. They exchange kills as both Reinhardts now down this, and we'll probably get very dirty down here. The Soundbearer comes in really nice late. This is Mouse's best look so far as they're all full and healthy, pushing onto the point. They have some nice positioning here if they can just take out Himsy up top.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great start. Himsy gets Divinus for his trouble, but that's going to be all. Swoosh comes up behind him, and no one really wants to meet a Reaper at close range. Notice Zappas, he's off towards the side. He has a Blizzard. He's waiting for the right time. He's going to throw it down now, straight jumping on towards the point here. Shield on Logics mean he won't be frozen, but a Seal is. Earthshatter comes down from Frankie, only catching on towards Finzy. He's hooked up, but look at this. The reinforcements are coming in from NIP, and that was Zappas just waiting for the perfect time to drop the ult, and it's going to be, again, Mousesports wiped off the point. Bit of fancy footwork from Divinus won't be enough to save them here, and that's going to be it. It's done in 2.
Very patient play from Zappas there, as you mentioned, is waiting for that ultimate time for the Blizzard, waiting for his team to get back into position to be able to follow that up, and somehow they just had ults banked up. Earthshatter came out, as opposed to Earthshattering someone who's already frozen, he flipped the 180, dropped the other target in the back lines as well, so nice target selection from their ultimates, and I guess this whole set is really just... NIP ended up getting more value out of every single one of their ultimates. Not a wasted Graviton ever coming out of them from this man in Mafu. And here's going to be 1-2 started off. They grab 4 into it. There's a grenade that comes over the top. The Blizzard, style points, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, it's a devastating combo, and sometimes Graviton in the realm, or I guess in the year of things like Bardic Grenade and extra healing is maybe not always enough to get the job done. So that's not even an issue for me. The big issue, if I'm honest, Tex, is that if you're going to play a Hanzo comp or any sort of pick comp, you would ideally like to generate enough threat with your front line to prevent the enemy team from actually engaging on the people who are getting picks like Swoosh there. He was getting kills. The problem is that he was getting kills while this sort of crazy fight was broken out, and you don't want to start the fight until you have that man advantage. But NIP understand this comp so well, the whole pick idea, that they weren't going to allow there to be a man disadvantage that manifested before. They just went straight for the fight there, and they knew that they could, I guess, just make easy work of that squishy backline. I mean, Slasher, you're back now. Hopefully your mic's working. I mean, what's your take on how these last couple have gone?
I'm afraid to talk.
It's good.
Am I okay?
You're good.
Okay, you're right. I mean, yeah, there were a few things. One, NIP was never really one to do the whole Beyblade meta, and that's been the last 3 months. So they're a team that has consistently been playing the same comp all the way back since closed beta, and considering the ult status that is now, and the way that picks are even more important in this current meta, that team is going to be consistently good, and you've seen that in these games. They're just very tough to break down, and as tanks are better, and as healing is more important, as Roadhog becomes even more important, Himsy gets so many crucial hooks, it's really hard to shut him down. And on the Mousesports side, they have some issues. Burix really has been playing a lot of Mercy, and I would say Zen is his secondary, and Ana is not really something that they do a whole lot of, and you kind of need Ana to deal with something that NIP is running. So Mousesports has some issues of their own in the way that their comp is working, especially going up against NIP. They really didn't have much of a shot, I don't think, from the beginning.
I mean, Hex, I personally think it's not time to throw Ana away yet. I mean, we've already seen teams so quickly go towards the Mercies and Yana, but I think you still give up so much from not having Ana that maybe it was a little bit rash to throw her out completely from Mousesports.
I think Ana will be fine. The ultimate change is, it's a bit of a big deal. It just means that it's not going to revolve around her. But the other options I don't think are all that great. I'm still not in love with Mercy in the meta. I think she's fine when you need to run her as a pocket in some situations if you want to keep someone wholly live. But I simply think that most teams have gotten really good at counterplaying against resurrections, that you're trying to get these 4 and 5 man reses. And I've seen it for the last couple weeks. I think that's just not how to use her anymore. You use it on your prime target. If someone goes down, you bring them back, and you always turn the fight back in your advantage. But teams are reacting to heroes never die pretty quickly by killing those heroes yet again. Heroes may just have to die twice. So overall, I think that Mouse Esports understands what they should be running, but they don't understand how to run it, if that makes any sense. Because it's like this is the comp that teams run, this is what we're going to run, but it just wasn't effective in the same way.
I mean, to be fair, see a lot actually in the Chinese region, teams who know what to run. It's kind of like a rote learning thing, but they don't know why. They have the deep understanding of exactly why they have all these pieces of the puzzle. But I mean, in an era of, ultimates now taking a little bit longer to charge up and less likely you're going to have the entire war chest, as ZP puts it, ready to go at once.
Right.
Maybe you can escape a little bit more after getting rezzed instead of a Reinhardt just queuing up an Earth Shatter and picking you up. But before we go, Slasher, I mean, what are your thoughts here on Mousesports? They're a team that we are going to see at LAN, hopefully coming up in the future. In fact, even at DreamHack, I believe they're planning to compete in the BYOC. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on them now from what we've really seen, even though it's hard to say much from this game?
I mean, they are a team recently put together. A bunch of their players, including Kush, come from, the rank ladder. And I think they've actually played pretty well for how short of a time that they've been together. They do have some issues, I think, with a lot of teams. I keep saying this in terms of hero pool for a lot of their players. And when you have a limited hero pool, it really does limit your options. I think right now is probably the best for teams that have limited hero pools because nearly every hero is viable. So I think they'll actually be pretty decent by the time we get to DreamHack. The points I will make about NIP is the only things I can say might be an issue going forward for them is, one, they put so much emphasis on Fraggy and giving him Ana ult and letting him go wild without the speed boost for Ana ult. You did see some problems with him not being able to get as many kills and open up as much space as he wanted to. And that is going to be something for teams to exploit, and they're going to need to do that. The second thing is they don't exactly have an incredible hit scan player. Yes, Zappas plays a ton of Hanzo. Yes, he can play Soldier, but it's not at the same level as the other top-tier hit scan players in the world. You did see the Pharah Mercy actually work on Eichenwalde first point, where you needed Himsy to get a hook to be able to knock down Pharah, and if he misses, they're actually able to wipe the whole team. So I think that is something to look forward to in the future that NIP may have to address, something for other teams to exploit.
Well, I mean, a decent way to wrap this one up, guys. I mean, to be fair, our next match is already getting queued up pretty quickly here. It's going to be Slav Squad versus Mouse. And Slav Squad actually just lost 0-2 over towards the side of Bonjour, who is essentially a reformed Melty. So we'll talk more about that after the break here as well, but we're going to throw to a break and set up our next rotation. So don't go too far, guys. Match 2 of Group A, just around the corner.